The truth is out there. Knowledge is power. This is the Prepper Podcast Radio Network.
The new Be Prepared for Christmas package from Sun Ovens contains everything you need to harness the power of the sun for cooking, water, and dehydrating. The perfect gift for the preppers or outdoor enthusiast on your shopping list. A sun oven uses the sun's power to bake, boil, or steam food, heat water for purification or personal hygiene, or solar dehydrate. When you use the sun's power on sunny days, you preserve your fuel storage for rainy days. Sun-baked foods retain moisture, have less shrinkage, and do not burn. Sun-baked roasts are tastier and more succulent, and sun-baked bread has unparalleled taste and texture. The new Be Prepared for Christmas package lets you roast an 18-pound turkey. For the past 26 years, Sun Ovens has been proudly made in the U.S., are durable, and have a long life and come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. For a discount coupon, visit sunoven.com/podcast. That's sunoven.com/podcast.
And with winter comes dangerous driving conditions. Get your vehicle ready for bad weather by getting it serviced as soon as possible. Prepare for emergencies by packing food, water, warm clothes, and weather-appropriate shoes or boots. Don't forget to check the spare to make sure it's usable. Stay informed on bad weather, dangerous driving events by visiting prepperpodcast.com. When Christmas comes, you don't want your family to stare at an empty chair.
Are you sick and tired of having your First Amendment harassed or censored on Facebook? Use no more, as we now have a new alternative to Facebook. It's called Awareness Act. Awareness Act is a social network designed for patriots, to be used by patriots, and is ran by patriots. Stand up and help in the fight to protect your constitutional rights. Patriots can create pages, blogs, videos, documents, articles, and so much more. We even have a unique news feed system that allows you to share, read, or connect with any patriot on Awareness Act. We are a dedicated tool for patriots to use against the tyranny our Constitution is facing. So if you're tired of having your rights infringed upon, come check us out at www.awarenessact.com. Again, that is www.awarenessact.com, the social network for patriots, not potatoes.
Whether you take me for the fool, I know that I can be. Whether you see me eye to eye.
Have you ever wanted to generate your own supply of electrical power, even save money on your electric bill? If so, this is going to be the most important message you will ever hear. Solar power generators are now available. These emergency backup systems provide life-saving electrical power when you need it most. Unlike gas generators, a solar generator runs quietly, emits no fumes, and produces electricity from the sun. It's like having an electric power plant running quietly in your own home. Run sump pumps, shortwave radios, computers, and even keep your food from spoiling. Whether it's hurricanes, ice storms, brownouts, or blackouts, you'll never suffer through painful power outages again. And here's the best news, a remarkable fall truckload sale going on right now that gets you $1,700 in bonuses when you buy a solar generator. To find out why solar generators are the best generators and get $1,700 for doing so, go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com. Generate your own supply of electricity. Go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com.
This is KPRN-DB, broadcasting worldwide from Southeast Oklahoma, USA, to parts unknown.
Coming to you from the foothills of the Sheep Mountain Range under the watchful eye of Mount Charleston, 11,960 feet above the desert floor, bringing Homestead Dividends, where home improvement, homesteading, and self-reliance meet, in a podcast rooted in common sense and practical knowledge. I'm your host, Dan V., bringing you a podcast that promises you four things. I'll save you money, I'll save you time, I'll give you good advice, and I'll give you the support that you need to do it yourself. Remember that I do the show as a labor of love. All I'd ask in return is that you visit my website at hdivs.com, again, hdivs.com. And while you're there, please check out my podcast and subscribe to it. You can go to the iTunes button, click on that, or one of the RSS or Atom feeds. Click on those and subscribe. If you do the iTunes route, it will take you to my page on iTunes. Click subscribe for free, and you'll be getting all of my future podcasts at no charge. In return for all the content and things that I do for you, all that I ask in return is that you share me on your social media of choice, whether it is Twitter and follow me there. My handle is HDIVS. Or on Facebook, keyword search Homestead and Dividends. Dig me on Dig. Submit to any of my podcasts on Reddit. Or stumble upon me on StumbleUpon or any of the other social media of your choice, and I would greatly appreciate that. In fact, I would consider that thank you payment in full. Okay? And if you like what you hear, also make sure you put in a good word for me on iTunes. This show is growing by leaps and bounds, and I greatly appreciate the kind words that you put in. But can always use another kind word and a positive review or like. So like me on Facebook or a nice review on iTunes would be greatly appreciated. So spread the word of all the good things that we're doing over here. Remember to tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Okay, well, today's episode you're going to think is a little out of place. Today's episode is called The New Year's Show, and it's episode 158. And, you're thinking to yourself, man, it is only the weekend of December 1st, and actually this will be broadcast November 30th on Friday. Well, why am I doing it now? Why am I not waiting until, January 1st or December 31st or somewhere around New Year's to do it? Well, there's a very, very simple reason why I wanted to kind of do a New Year's show now. And that is because exactly how much time do you have to listen to a podcast between, the middle of December and New Year's? Oh, none? That's what I thought. Let me ask you another question. If you were to read or listen to read my blog or listen to said podcast, how much time would you have to be able to put aside quietly to focus on some of the things that I'm encouraging you to do and actually act on them and come up with a list or, a guide or some kind of an attack plan to actually do some of these things? Oh, none right again. Okay, so now you know why I'm doing this in December. Okay? You're going to be too busy in the upcoming weeks to really give the subject matter its appropriate study, devotion, focus, whatever you want to call it. Okay? And this is really important stuff, you have to get this right. You don't want to waste your life thinking about improving it, There are some people that just like to read self-improvement books, but they never do anything, and they just are kind of addicted to self-improvement. Or people that watch home improvement shows, but won't lift up a can of paint or a paintbrush. You want to make sure that you live your life and strive to improve it every day and not just live vicariously, either through my podcasts or someone else's or books or blogs. I can't thank you enough for listening and tuning into my show, but I want you to take that next step and get active in your own life. That's the important part. What are you doing to make your life better? And let me point something out to you. There's only 1 month left in 2012. Are you using your time wisely? Let me throw a couple of questions out at you. And these questions, if you go to my website, I want you to take a look at them. And what I want you to do is actually answer these questions and start putting together your own list of New Year's resolutions or list of resolves, for lack of a better word, to actually put together a list of action items for you to do and work on in 2013. But why am I doing this now? In addition to there's not being a lot of time after from really the midpoint of the month of December, another thing is we usually do things in little steps, and we're creatures of habit. And if we can start off small with baby steps and start doing things, we can build. So instead of looking at all of 2013 on January 1st and seeing 365 days we have to commit to doing something, let's try this. For the next month, and I know it's going to be busy, can you focus some time and take baby steps in December so you're already building some positive habits in areas that you feel you need to focus in so that when 2013 comes around, you're not starting something, you're adding to it because you're already on the ground running with this idea or these ideas or this list or these resolves that you've decided to really work on. So let's focus on 1 month. And really, let's only focus on a few things for this month because I know you're going to be busy. But if you can just get off your, backside and get started and jump in the game now. If you've been slacking, or if you've been doing well, do a little bit more, or add another piece to the puzzle, or reevaluate and say, you know, we're really good here, we can back off on this, but here's an area that we really need to focus on. Whatever it is and however you need to evaluate your life, and only you can do that. I can't tell you what to do. Because if I tell you what to do, A, you're not going to buy into it, and B, I don't know what's going on in your life personally. You need to figure out for yourself what's going on. Okay? And so that's why you need to be active in this and not just some kind of recipient. You need to be the one that's actually a doer or an agent of change, as people like to say. Okay, so let's talk about some of these things. I'm just going to, ask you a couple of questions or make a couple of comments, and then I'll maybe annotate or just discuss them briefly, and then we're going to move on. At the end, I'm just going to kind of wrap everything up, and then I have a little homework assignment for you, but you already know what the assignment is, and that is I want you guys, within this last month, to make some baby steps going forward into 2013, so it's not some big shock. And say, okay, well, I'm going to start, January 1st, 2013. I always hear people say that with their diets, and, I'm going to eat this cheesecake now, but I promise I'll start in 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and that never works. You got to start now, baby steps. If you say, well, down the road I'm going to do better, but right now I'm going to be a slob, that's not going to work. You got to do the little things along the way. You got to be dedicated. Okay, so are you getting out of debt, whether it be personal debt, credit cards, car debt, house debt, whatever it is? Are you spending within your means, or are you spending out of your means? At the very, very least, everyone should be spending within their means, meaning as much going out as coming in. Nobody should be adding to their debt. You can't be a prepper or a homesteader or someone in the club and be someone spending foolishly, okay? We only want people here who are responsible with their money. So please make sure you're on the right page or the same page as we are, the same sheet of music, and you're getting out of debt or working actively to bring your debt load down significantly. You know what? If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Learn to do without it as best you can. And I know that that's, within a certain parameter here. I'm not saying, not feed your kids. I'm not saying, don't get your kids medicine. I understand there are emergencies or exceptions to that. If you need to go over your expenses a little bit to pay for the kids' medicine, that's not what I'm talking about. But you don't need that extra pair of shoes or that extra belt or that extra tie or this extra toy if you're not making, ends meet and more money's going out than's coming in. And you guys know that. And knowing my audience the way I do, I know that I'm preaching to the choir here. You guys get that. But in case you just need a little reminder, are you doing better? Are you getting out of debt, or are you going into debt? You're getting out of debt. Is your house in better shape? Remember, part of my show has to do with home improvement. Has your house been improving, or have you been letting it slide? Projects, and you need to, and I'll be talking about this in subsequent episodes, you need to be making sure that you're having your list together of things you need to do in the springtime. Wintertime is not a great time for home improvement in most people in most areas of the country or world. But it's a great time to put together lists and start prioritizing, getting bids, and getting things lined up for when the weather breaks in the springtime. So now is a great time to start organizing and putting your house together for 2013. It needs to be improving, guys. If your house is getting worse, that's going to be a huge financial drain on you in the short term, fixing it up long term, and then trying to sell it because people throw so much money into selling a house because they didn't take care of it the way they should have. So all the way around, make sure your house is in better shape than it was the year before or when you got it or whatever. Okay? Always be improving it. Are you in better shape physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually? Now, these are obviously 4 different questions, but ones that you can kind of lump together here. What are you doing to keep or improve your physical health? What are you doing to improve your mental state? Are you finding ways to deal with stressful coworkers, family members, or external influences? Are you learning to stop worrying about things that you can't fix that really don't affect you or only affect you in the larger scheme of things? I'll give you an example. The election's over. Some of you guys, if you're still worrying about who's president or who's prime minister in your country or whatever, you know what? You're wasting your time. The election's over. You need to move on. And whether your guy won or lost, you know what? I still have my job. I still have my family. I still have my home. I still have my responsibilities. Depending on who, won or lost, yes, some changes would affect my life in some ways. But you know what? In the most basic ways, really it hasn't affected me at all. And I can say, taxes being. I get that. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying in the most basic ways, I still have my same beautiful wife. I still have my beautiful daughter. I still have the same beautiful life that I lead with my great job that I love. And you know what? I'm blessed. And that's what I need to focus on. And making my family more independent, more self-reliant, have more beautiful fruit trees, because I'm more of an orchard guy than a true garden guy. Although I'm a gardener, but I got to say my love is fruit trees. In fact, my wife just tried one of the figs off of our fig tree. I only got half a fig. It was starting to rot, but she got part of it, so she got to enjoy one of our only figs from our new trees we planted this year. So she's pretty happy about that. So that's what I can focus on. So I can't be stressed out about what's on CNN or Drudge Report or the Washington Post or the New York Times or whatever. I can't worry about that. I need to focus a lot less on what's going on internationally. There's always going to be trouble, and this is horrible to say, there's always going to be trouble somewhere in the world, and that's not to say that I'm not compassionate and kind and thinking of those people that are in these war-torn areas and things, but I can certainly donate to causes and help in certain ways, but you know what, I can't change the opinions of world leaders, so I need to stop worrying about the opinions of world leaders. I can't change President Obama's mind. I can't change Benjamin Netanyahu's mind. I can't change whoever's the head of the PLO today, or who's the PM of Great Britain or Australia, or who's in charge in South Africa or New Zealand, and how those things and those personalities and geopolitical schema all go together or pull apart in some cases. I can't worry about that. You know what? That's above my pay grade. I'm a school teacher with a life, and I need to focus on that. I mean, I do, and I used to be a real big political junkie when I lived in Washington, D.C., but you know what? I really can't affect a lot of change on that level. But 180, 190 kids that I teach every day, I can make a lot of change on those kids, in those kids' lives, and I do. So that's where I put my focus, and on my family. The things that I can change, and I can be a good example to, Lord knows I try. I'm not perfect, and I make a lot of mistakes. I say stupid things and I do dumb things. But I think overall, my students love me, and I feel like I really make a positive influence in their life. And then spiritually, for those of you who this applies to, and I'm going to keep this podcast secular, but this is a good time spiritually. Are you on the right path? Are you feeling more at peace with yourself and with your Maker, or whatever it is that you believe? Or are you getting farther away from that? What do you need to do to refocus yourself on your faith or your spirituality or whatever it is that you believe or don't believe? What do you need to do to be at peace with yourself? And how do you need to get there? And what do you have to do to get there? So things to think about. Next question, topic. What have you planted in terms of permafood? Whether it be asparagus or potatoes or sweet potatoes, which I consider permafood, because permafood is not a technical term. It's a term I kind of coined and came up with. Food that's kind of always around, you can always kind of have. Okay? Things that last over the long term. Because potatoes, usually you get a couple of potatoes that are small, you just stick them back in the ground. The big ones you take in the house and you cook. Right? Same thing with sweet potatoes. You can just shove the little ones back in the ground and start over again. You get a rotten potato in a bag, throw it in the garden, okay, you got more potatoes growing. That's not a big deal. Asparagus, and for me the big thing, of course, is orchards and fruit trees. I love, orchard permafood. You plant it in the ground, you do all your work in 1 or 2 years. You got to do a little bit of pruning and a little bit of feeding, and put a little liquid cop on it or whatever the products are that you need to keep your trees healthy and manageable. Stake them or prune them, whatever. But, it's a lot less work for me than planting rows upon rows of food, and I do that, and I do have a little garden I'm working on right now that I've added a planter, and you've seen my horrible video on YouTube that's shaky because I didn't realize my iPhone didn't self-adjust like it does when you watch a movie on it. I was turning it all these different directions and get all these crazy angles. I didn't realize it doesn't automatically autocorrect like it would on like it does when you actually are watching it. You can watch something on your iPhone, flip it upside down, and the screen will flip 180 degrees, so it's still right side up and you're seeing things the right way. I didn't realize the camera doesn't do that when you're taking a picture, so sorry about that. Okay, but permafood. Get in the game, guys. Make sure if you have the property and the land, as long as you own the land, you have some land and space for permafood. Please get after it, okay? I'm already thinking about things that we need to improve upon or things that we need to give up on. And this is a make or break it year for my 2 lemon trees. They've been in the ground a couple of years. We replanted them in a place that's really sunny and should work for them. And this is really the only place in the yard left that would work for them. So if we get a bad or 0 crop this year, we only got 2 or 3 lemons this year. So if now that we've replaced them and put them here and we have them ready to go this year, if they don't make it this year, they're gone. Okay, we're going to find food that we can grow here. I'm not going to waste the beautiful space in our beautiful yard on trees that are supposed to produce food and don't. I had one of my little National Honor Society girls. She was doing her Honor Society public service in my classroom, working in my classroom, helping me, and she was saying that her family, they have lemon trees. They haven't had lemons in 5 years. And I'm thinking, you know what? We're going on 3 years, and we're going to cut it off at the pass here. If after 3 years we don't have any lemons on these trees, and we've only had 1 or 2 over the last couple of years, and this is the most sunniest spot I can have, and this is, Nevada, and there are other people at lower elevations that get great lemons, but I have a feeling that maybe we're up too high here in the Sheep Mountain Range. I'm in the foothills of the Sheeps, and may not work here, and that's okay. You know what? Because there's other food we can grow, and my wife's apricot tree looks fantastic, and I planted a partner for it for cross-pollination, and I'm hoping that it looks pretty healthy too. And so we're hoping for good things. Now, if it just grows and becomes a beautiful shade tree and doesn't produce food, well, that's a different story too. But we're hoping, like our peach tree, that we're going to have some good yields this year, but we'll just have to see. Okay? What will your garden look like next year? You need to start planning now. And remember, good varieties of seeds do sell out. And so, after the New Year, don't do this over Christmas unless this is something special. But you can wait until after January 1st when you have some time and you can catch your breath after the holidays and things start to go back to normal and the seed catalogs start to roll in. Go get those popular varieties that you like and order them early. And I would order, not just a year's supply, but a 2 or 3 year supply. The germination rates on most of them stay really high even after a year. Keep them in a cool place, dry place, and you have enough seeds for a year and or an emergency garden. If for some reason you can't, or the seeds are sold out next year, you forget you have a backup supply. Okay, it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, so start planning and focusing on your garden and all the things that you're going to plant next year. Permafood first, and then garden second. Have you stopped caring about the Joneses? And we jumped off on a little tangent here on a different subject. You know the old saying, keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with status symbol and trying to impress strangers that you don't really care about and don't care about you. But you need to have a fancy car and fancy clothes to impress these people that don't care about you one bit or one iota. Have you stopped caring about the Joneses? Or are you still competing with strangers in a foolish status symbol crusade? Or you want some silly crusade still to try and impress your neighbors with a fancy car that's not paid for and it's going to put you into debt and make you miserable? Or are you going to have a more modest car or an older car you're going to fix and repair and keep running? That's something you need to consider, guys. Don't take the bait. Don't get sucked in to the life of the Joneses. Because you know what? The Joneses look really nice. They're freaking broke. The Joneses are broke. They look really cool on the outside, They got it all going on. Look at them on the inside. Probably they are broke. Okay? I remember the old commercial. This guy he's on a tractor talking about his beautiful wife and family, and he's riding this tractor. I'm up to my eyeballs in debt. Please help me. And he says this in this kind of cheesy country clubbish smile, okay, or smirk. And he is living the good life, looking like he's doing well, but he's poorer than people with a fraction of his salary because it's all going out and he's spending it poorly. Don't do that. Make 2013 the year where you get off that merry-go-round or that hamster wheel of just spinning a wheel in place and getting nowhere, trying to impress a bunch of strangers. Guys, you don't need a Rolex watch. If you get one and you can afford one and you got everything else in the world, great. I still think you're foolish, but you can get one. You don't need a Rolex watch. Get a watch that works. That'll be just fine. You don't have to impress anyone. Okay? All right, so stop keeping up with the Joneses. Have you de-emphasized, and this is for me, sports, entertainment, and other trivial interests and gotten back to the basics of focusing on your family, friends, and, for some, your faith? Okay? For me, my one, not even passion. It used to be a passion, now it's a rooting interest. I do like American football. And, it's really from September through January. There's what we call bowl season when the colleges play. And there's a little bit of playoffs for the NFL or National Football League. And then by February, it's done. And, I don't even really watch all the games. I don't even watch any of the games, really. If my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers are on, I'll catch a couple of quarters. But I can't even sit through a whole game anymore. I've so de-emphasized it that I'm either doing that or I'll listen in the background as background noise and, pick my eyes up when a big play happens. Otherwise, I'm grading papers or working on a podcast or, reading a journal or doing something productive because watching watching football really isn't. And I've learned to multitask. Probably my enjoyment experience is down with sports, and that's a good thing. I'm not really into sports. It's not that enjoyable for me, but at the same time, when I do watch it, I'm getting other things done. I'm becoming much more of a multitasker. Or I'll listen to a game on my headphones, and I'm outside digging ditches or painting or doing whatever I need to do around the house. And listening to sports talk shows. I do like talk shows and sports talk shows, but you know what? I only listen to them when I got a hammer or a tool in my hand and I'm doing something, and then it's okay. Sitting around the house with nothing to do, listening to sports radio or doing that stuff, boring and stupid. Entertainment. Now, my family, we're not big into entertainment. We don't go to movies and do this or that or the other thing, so that's really low on our list. But it is for some people. Or it might be your sports or your Achilles. But I can't wait until February when football season's over, and what emphasis I do have is put on the shelf for another year. After that, there's something called the football draft, where you see all the new people coming out of college, and your favorite team picks their players that they're going to try and use next year. And that's kind of neat. That's like a weekend, and then other than that, I don't care about anything. I don't pick up hockey or baseball or any of these other sports because I don't want to get sucked in. One sport is enough for me to get sucked into, and the joy of having my weekends for camping and my family the rest of the year is too enjoyable to even want to get involved in some other stupid sport. So that's wonderful. So all these other trivial interests, forget them. Get back to the basics of focusing on your family, your friends, and or your faith if it applies to you. If it doesn't apply to you, as I said, we're keeping this a secular podcast. You don't need to go there. But for those of you that it does apply, remember that is an important part of your life, and you need to keep everything balanced and focused. Okay? Is your bug-out bag or your family's, everyone's bug-out bags, are they all ready to go? Do you have emergency supplies? Do you have at least a month's supply of food, water, and money? Are your cars paid for, or are they getting more paid for? Or did you decide that this is the year for the $70,000 Escalade in the yard? Is that really a great idea? No, it's really not. You don't need a $70,000 Escalade, even if you can afford it. I'm sure there are wiser ways to use that resource, money, wisely. I wouldn't do it, but that's up to you. But, work on paying off your cars. Have you stopped worrying about the stupid news and the elections and started focusing on the things you can actually change? I touched on this earlier. The elections are over. There's always a crisis in the news. What's the mantra? I don't know if you guys know this, but there's kind of like an unofficial saying in the newsroom: if it bleeds, it leads, meaning that all crisis, devastation, and destruction is the top news story of the day because it gets people interested and is titillating. It gets people's interest, and then they stick on the show to watch, people dead and burned or buried or whatever. It's pretty grotesque, pretty sad. And you really can't change what's going on with the politicians around the world. We've already picked who our politicians are going to be really for the next 2 years. You know what? I've moved on. I know what I need to do for my family. I can't do anything. I did my job. I voted. Okay? I let my voice be heard. I did my part. And you know what? Now it's time for me to get back to my life. I don't have time for this BS. Okay? Whether Obama does this or does that, you know what? I really have no control now. And you know what? The more crazy this world gets, the more I realize the more important it is that I take care of myself and put myself in control of my own life and depend on the government as little as possible and lesser every year. So even in a validation of the insanity of the world is my motivation for reducing my reliance on the outside world. And you know what? If my world is reduced to a compound with my family and, access to my friends and my loved ones, and I really don't care much about the outside world, good for me. If I don't need to care about what's going on in Washington and what the latest trends are or the latest crisis, good for me. You know what that gut feeling? You think it's ever going to get better? You think things are ever going to be fixed? No. Move on. Okay? Fish or cut bait. Meaning either, do something about it or move on. And you know what? I can't do anything about the national debt, so I'm stopping to worry about it. I can do something about the DNV debt, and that's what I'm worried about. And so that's what I focus on is my family and our finances. I can't fix the rest of the world. Okay? Whether you like it or not, the world goes on. You still have, your life, your job, and or situations that you had before, no matter who got elected or whatever's going on in the world. So get over yourself. You're not that important that you're changing the whole world. Now, if the president or some congressman or senator are listening to my podcast, call me. I've got some things to tell you and why you're idiots. But otherwise than that, we really can't influence the world now, can we? We can influence our little sphere of influence. And, Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about that we spend most of our time worrying about things that we cannot change or affect. We need to spend the majority of our time working on areas and things that we have influence on and can fix. And that's where we need to focus our energy. Stop worrying about things in Rhodesia or the Sudan or things in China or in, these other countries. Now, we care about those people as human beings, and we want what's best for them in the world. But what I'm just saying is I can't worry about what the price of rice is in China. Okay? I have no effect on that. I'm not a rice farmer, and I'm not a commodities broker, and I don't have anything to do with that. So you know what? I'll worry about what the price of rice is in the United States in my backyard, because that's important to me. The next thing I wanted to talk about. What if I told you 2013 could be your best year you've ever lived on this earth, and the only thing standing in your way from attaining it is you? Remember, your attitude and how you approach things and what you do is going to determine your outcome. You are the most important variable in you. If you go about doing the right things the right way and make good choices, it's going to be an outstanding and wonderful year. Tragedies and crises aside, I understand that family members die, illnesses and sicknesses happen, and I can't plan for those, and we can't really factor those things in. I understand that. Having lost my mother recently in the last several years, I can tell you that it's pretty tough, knowing that someone you loved and cared about your whole life is no longer on this earth. And I'm very happy that she is where she is, because I believe she's in heaven. But that still leaves a hole in your heart here on earth. And so we're not talking about that. But all those kinds of things aside, you can make 2013 a fantastic year if you're willing to put in the time and the effort and the motivation and the focus to do the right things. Are you answering these questions and putting yourself in a position to be successful? If you can, if you are, it's going to be a great year. No matter what happens on the international scene, no matter what happens in the national scene or the macro scene, worry about the micro scene. The micro scene is your little world and your little universe, your little network, your little neighborhood. Worry about the micro, what you can handle, the small. The macro, the large, the big. You know what? That's above my pay grade. I'm not a congressman. I'm not a senator. I'm not a president. I'll let the big wigs worry about that. And you know what? They're doing a really crappy job anyway. I'll worry about myself and try and save myself and my family, because those idiots don't know what they're doing anyway. Okay. How are you stocked on self-defense items? And for some of you in my international audiences, at least you can have is a baseball or a cricket bat under the bed, at the very least for a prowler. So last time I checked, in every country, a golf club or a baseball bat or a cricket bat is not illegal. A croquet mallet underneath the bed, at the very least, to whack someone in the head who comes prowling in your bedroom in the middle of the night. At the very least, I think we can all probably justify that. Or, a cast iron skillet, a frying pan, as they used to show in the movies. I think that's the very least we can do. In countries where we have the options for more, whether it be a bow and arrow or a handgun or a rifle or a shotgun, whatever it is, or somewhere a crossbow or a spear or a sword or whatever it is, make sure that you have the self-defense items that you need, you're trained with, comfortable with, and are willing to use in an emergency situation to protect your family. We're not talking about offensive firepower here, only defensive. We as preppers and people in our community do not think of preying on the weak. We are not criminals. We are law-abiding citizens who work within the rules to do the best we can to protect our family. And that's what I do, and I expect everyone to do. If you're looking for me to talk about overthrowing and violence and sedition and all this crazy stuff, sorry guys, this isn't the tinfoil hat podcast. Go somewhere else, okay? So crazy somewhere else. We're all stocked up here, okay? We don't do that at Homestead Dividends, okay? We're about living within the law, okay? Now, if it becomes the law is unjust and, you're living in a totalitarian or dictating, dictatorial, situation, that's a little bit different where, all heck's breaking loose. So when things hits the fan and you're coming for your guns and life's becoming, things are changing and it's no longer the U.S. of A., that might be different. But, that's not what we're talking about. That's not realistic. That's silly. Okay? You don't even need to think about that stuff. And if you're thinking about that, you're wasting your time. Okay? What you need to worry about is just facing facts, if there are bad people in your neighborhood, and just be prepared to defend yourself in case they come in your house. That's all you need to worry about. Okay? We don't need to worry about militias and, all these crazy things. Okay? That's crazy talk for another time. Focus on rounding into being a good prepper, homesteader, and DIYer or do-it-yourselfer. Okay? And get yourself in good shape for the remainder of this year. You got 1 month to build on these positive habits that you can build on and drive into next year into. Okay? Think in terms of 1 month. 365 days, 12 months is a long way. It's a marathon, and for some people, they're not just mentally or emotionally equipped to deal with that. But all of us can get through a month. Okay? Look 1 month out. Okay? Let's get through December. Let's make a couple different things, a couple goals. Let's have some preps and some things that are benchmarks or goals that we want to attain over the next year, and let's work on it. Okay? And that's where we need to focus our energy. Another thing, and this is one of the things that can go along with this, never leave your weekly grocery shopping spree without at least one prepper item. Even if it's a can of beans, okay, or a pocket knife from the dollar store, or in Great Britain or countries that use the pound store, or pound shop. Okay? So even if it's just a can of beans or a 24-hour candle or 12-hour candle or, 6-hour candle, whatever it is, you can buy these kind of candles that are of long duration in the dollar store, or a couple of tools or a pocket knife or box cutter knife, whatever it is. Come up with buy one prepping thing a week. Don't, make this incredibly expensive list of things that you're going to save up for. I mean, you can do that if you want, but it's easier just every week. Like, I found the most awesome dollar pocket knife, this really awesome blade, at Walmart a couple months ago. It was $1. I think it was on clearance. It was really, really cheap. And I know that it cannot compare to, a Spyderco or one of those incredible, knives, a SOG or something. I get that, okay? But it's a really cool knife for $1. And you know what? If I throw one of those in every one of my toolboxes, in my fishing box, in each of my cars, and, my gun box, and this and that and the other thing, if I have one everywhere, you know what? Missing a $1 knife isn't going to... I'd rather have 5 or 6, knives that'll get the job done in a pinch, rather than one really expensive, wonderful knife that if I lose, I'm screwed. That's my philosophy. I believe in redundancy. Maybe for you, though, you'd rather have one really great knife that's $100 or $60 or whatever, instead of a bunch of lesser ones. And you're never going to forget it. Me, I'd rather have a bunch of them laying all over the place. And actually, I got a couple of these kind of tactical knives at one of the local sporting goods stores a couple of years ago. And I got one for my wife's car and for my car. And what's really cool about them, it's a multi-tool knife. The end of it is for smashing up glass. So God forbid if, and there's not a whole lot of water in the desert here, but God forbid if you needed to break out a window like you went out into someplace wet, or you just need to break out a window. It has one of those prick points, one of those sharp little metal nipple points on the knife that if you smash it into the tempered glass, it'll shatter. I think that's really important for her, and I feel good about my wife having one that she can get in and out of the car in an emergency. And it's also nice having a big old blade, because this one it's a tactical knife. It has a big blade on it too, and it's gonna help. And I have one for my car, and we have one in I think all of our cars. So that's pretty cool. Okay, now here's the homework. Take an hour or two now, meaning before the holiday craziness begins, and start making your plans for next year. Focus on your family and what you can do. Okay? Nothing should involve the big picture occupied by politicians, civic leaders, and other creeps and ne'er-do-wells. Okay? We're not talking about them. Okay? Don't worry about what the price of tea is in China. Okay? Worry about what's in your own pantry or larder, and fill it up and stock it up in case of a job loss or an emergency or a power outage. And, people laugh at us when we're preppers, but, the people that just went through what they did on the East Coast of the United States, they're not laughing at preppers now if they ever did. And most of them probably never did in the first place. And I'm not looking to cast aspersions or make fun or in any way talk down to those people. But you know what? Especially those people that have been through hard times, now they can really appreciate just the common sense, practicality, and goodness of prepping, which is what we do and what we are. We are preppers. Prepper is what we do, and prepper is what we are too. And so focus on your family and what you can do. Don't worry about the big picture. Worry about what you can do. Focus on your life and your plans, and you'll be happy. There's always going to be some instability in the world. There's always going to be a crisis, but what you can do is make sure that there's no instability or crisis in your own home. That's where you need to focus. Clean your spiritual health, if that advice applies to you. Clean up and improve your friendships, especially inside the family. Heal old wounds. Bring harmony back into your home if it needs to be harmonized. Lastly, make time for your family. And get that stupid television off. It's amazing how much better your family is when the television is off and you're playing board games or taking a walk together or doing all those things. And for me, American football season, as I mentioned, is drawing to an end. When the TV's off and we get an extended break until next fall, what a joy it is to be free of that need to check on my Pittsburgh Steelers and my Pittsburgh Panthers, and to look forward to weekends camping and getting out and traveling and seeing a little bit more of the world. So, and to be very honest with you at this point, sports are starting to bore me, which is actually a good thing. And on a final note, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a festive Kwanzaa, and a joyous and prosperous New Year. I wish you all the very best of the end of this 2012 and a wonderful and amazing and, in addition to prosperous, effective 2013. I want you to be an effective prepper and really be in the zone and have just a tremendous year. And the only difference between a positive 2013 and a negative 2013, all other emergencies and crises that we can't control aside, is you. Make it a good year. Well, that's my show for today. I'm Dan Vamus. I can't thank you enough for listening. You guys make this show important, and I make this show for you. So that's how it is, the 30th of November 2012. I'm Dan V. Thanks for listening to my show. Check me out on hdibs.com and on syndication on some of the channels that cover us and carry us. Thanks for listening. Goodbye, and God bless.
Have you ever wanted to generate your own supply of electrical power, even save money on your electric bill? If so, this is going to be the most important message you will ever hear. Solar power generators are now available. These emergency backup systems provide life-saving electrical power when you need it most. Unlike gas generators, a solar generator runs quietly, emits no fumes, and produces electricity from the sun. It's like having an electric power plant running quietly in your own home. Run sump pumps, shortwave radios, computers, and even keep your food from spoiling. Whether it's hurricanes, ice storms, brownouts, or blackouts, you'll never suffer through painful power outages again. And here's the best news, a remarkable fall truckload sale going on right now that gets you $1,700 in bonuses when you buy a solar generator. To find out why solar generators are the best generators and get $1,700 for doing so, go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com. Generate your own supply of electricity. Go to falltruckloadsale.com. That's falltruckloadsale.com.
The new Be Prepared for Christmas package from Sun Ovens contains everything you need to harness the power of the sun for cooking, water, and dehydrating. The perfect gift for the preppers or outdoor enthusiast on your shopping list. A sun oven uses the sun's power to bake, boil, or steam food, heat water for purification or personal hygiene, or solar dehydrate. When you use the sun's power on sunny days, you preserve your fuel storage for rainy days. Sun-baked foods retain moisture, have less shrinkage, and do not burn. Sun-baked roasts are tastier and more succulent, and sun-baked bread has unparalleled taste and texture. The new Be Prepared for Christmas package lets you roast an 18-pound turkey. For the past 26 years, Sun Ovens has been proudly made in the U.S., are durable, and have a long life and come with a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. For a discount coupon, visit sunoven.com/podcast. That's sunoven.com/podcast.
This is KPRN-DB, broadcasting worldwide from Southeast Oklahoma, USA to parts unknown.